Hey guys, while we were doing our 2022 goals video, we kind of had a bit of a tangent conversation about working with clients, getting new clients, and that's something that we all kind of feel the pressure of all the time. So we thought it'd be really good just to talk through our process and how we're going to try and get more clients and maintain those relationships throughout the next year.
I know when I got contacted by Nike 2 years ago, when it was, or last year, and the last thing I said to him, look, just out of curiosity, is I said, just so I know, how did you find me? Like, what was the way you found me? And they said Instagram.
If you've got a high level, if you've got a high level of skill and you've got a good portfolio and you've got consistency as well, there's nothing that can stop you getting those opportunities.
Personally, I know how much I get from producing stuff with you guys and just, building our relationship and friendship together. That means a lot to me, so that's totally worth it. And then the other side of it is continuing to ride the coattails of Karl's massive social media following. So that's worth it as well. It is a funny one though, clients, isn't it? Because you never know. You kind of are not in that much control.
No.
One of my goals for this year actually is to keep more on top of updating my website and being more across the other networking platforms that I know people get work on. So I need to start using LinkedIn as a promotional tool, and I probably need to set up a Behance account.
Yeah, or Dribble. I mean, I've had both. I've had Dribble, I've had Behance, I've got a LinkedIn, and all across all three of them, I use them to the, not at all, minimum. Yeah. And I know for a fact, I'm sure somebody said to me, and I can't remember who it was, but Stan Chow uses LinkedIn quite successfully.
Does it?
It gets a lot of work that way. I think my issue with it is just not knowing how to use it properly.
Yeah.
And I think because there's so many different social streams, you just think to yourself, that's another bloody social stream you need to keep on top of.
No, that's the thing, isn't it?
And it's just on top of all of that, doing your work, day-to-day life stuff. You two have got full-time jobs. I've got kids. It's just how many do you need? And I kind of, I think it'd be important for us to get somebody on here where we can find out exactly the best ways to how people contact you. Because I know when I got contacted by Nike 2 years ago, when it was, or last year, when that deal fell through, I asked them at the end, the last thing I said to them before we sort of it was all pleasantry and stuff, and I said, yeah, don't worry about it. And they said, I'm going to come back in the future. And then the last thing I said to them, look, just out of curiosity, is I said, just so I know, how did you find me? What was the way you found me? And they said Instagram. Funny enough, they said Instagram. They use it for a lot of their clients and stuff, and I'm always interested to find out, because then which social platform, if you like to really hone in on or spend a little bit more time on. And I was actually quite surprised it was Instagram, and I don't know whether that's because there's no and on Instagram you can't gain someone's personality, whereas Twitter you can. Because it's just photos and a caption as such, and I always thought that places like Twitter, when people work with other people, and I think they generally do, they like to home in on what you are like as a person. Do you know what I mean? So it's like anything, before you offer a job to somebody might be an amazing illustrator or whatever, content creator, but if they're and you can tell that by their tweets, all lives matter and all that kind of shit, where you just know they're being complete heads. You just think to yourself, it doesn't matter how good your work is, I don't want to work with you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was really shocked, because you kind of, on Instagram, I don't think you can portray yourself in that way, because effectively it's just pictures. So it'd be interesting to find out.
I think I guess from my film work, I probably just naturally have a lot more exposure to agencies and brands than you guys do, and also I hire other creative people to be part of my crew, so I'll get sent the show reel or the website of an art director or a cinematographer, and I go through that process. And I think one of the things that I always do now is one of the first places I go is I go on someone's Instagram, and in part that's because it's so reduced down. So I wouldn't be bothered to look at someone's Twitter, because you're just going to have to scroll through loads of like that is just completely irrelevant. So I think Instagram, like if I put my like client hat on, I think Instagram, Behance, LinkedIn as well. Like I think one of the reasons why they feel so important is because they're gonna just be work. You know, I'm not gonna have to scroll through what other people are doing, what they've been talking about. You know, a picture of them out with their mates, and I think that's one of the reasons why like I have two Instagram accounts. I've got my film one and I've got my art one, but I don't use either of them as like a personal social media platform. I don't post pictures of like, you know, me out with my mates or a picture of my cat or whatever, because they're professional platforms to me. Like I might post that kind of stuff on my Twitter. So that's the mental separation in my head. But I think every single way that you approach these things does have like a natural risk reward element to it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I kind of think in my head that just because of these big companies or what they're doing, whether they'd want to vet someone because you don't want to be associated with somebody who's got, you know, as good as, if they're great in their field, you know, if it works out that they're basically a or whatever, or they've got some sort of historical, or maybe not historical, but more recent times, because, you know, everybody at some point in their life's been a but I mean, if they've got, you know, more recent tweets or whatever, I was always of the opinion that I thought it'd be easier for Nike, and they don't get the backlash of, oh, do you really want to work with this person? Look at his X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? And that was my thinking, is that Instagram kind of doesn't really show that. But, you know, I mean, I guess like it's, you've got to think of it in stages from my point of view. So, you know, if somebody, let's say Nike, you know, let's take Nike, the Nike example. Like
if somebody emails you about a project, they've probably emailed a dozen people. Like that same email has gone to a dozen people that do what you do, but they've looked at the social media profiles or the Instagram profile of 10 times that many.
Yeah.
So like your personality will become important once you're in that second category, or maybe even the third category, which is when they then whittle it down by half again, and they're now just picking between like 4 or 5 people. But I think at the first, like you got to have in your head each step of the process. So you want your Instagram profile or your LinkedIn profile or your Behance page to be great, so that you get part of the first group.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of stuff that just normal, good spirited people can do on social media that would rule them out of a job. It feels like basically what we're talking about is like, you know, if you're a racist prick, or you know, you've got homophobic slurs up and down your Twitter page, then
or you're sexist.
Or you're sexist, or you know, all that.
If you're an arsehole.
But a proper toxic piece of then you just don't deserve the work anyway.
I mean, not even just only that, but some people are abusive to other people without being falling into any of those categories. It can just be the way they talk to people. Do you know what I mean? And you get into Twitter spats and or social media spats, and you know, if you're just telling someone to off or whatever the case may be, I just think you've got to, as we've said this on a number of different podcasts, that you have to sort of be very wary of what you say and the way you conduct yourself. But that was always my own thinking about the way you get more client work, was the fact that I thought they would hone in more on where they could find out your personality, which would be Twitter, rather than Instagram, where they can just see your artwork. But then, as you kind of sort of explained, maybe that's a stage process. You know, they filter everybody out, and then they get to a point where the last stage of it, they do sort of.
Yeah, I'd imagine it is, because the other way, like, it depends on, again, it's like the scale of the brand that you're talking about. So, you know, again, a company like Nike or Adidas or any of these massive companies, they have so many people that it could be that, and this goes for big agencies as well, you're probably talking about like a production assistant or the equivalent at X brand pulling together the portfolios of dozens of artists. And then that'll get filtered down a little bit, and then it'll get on the desk of a creative director. And then that creative director will go, I like these 4, so let's reach out to these 4. And again, like I don't think it would ever be the job of like the person really making the decision. They're not going to be the person going through your Twitter profile, most likely. But at a smaller agency, they could. And I think, you know, and I mean, there's so many different permutations to all this kind of stuff. You know, it can take on a dozen different forms. But I think like, yeah, it just comes back to like what we've basically just said is if you're not being an arsehole, then you probably don't have to worry about it too much. I think the most important thing is making sure that you're presenting your work in as good a way as possible. And again, like I'm not saying I really understand how to do that. I was updating my website over Christmas, and it gets to the point where you're like, well, you want a broad range of clients represented, but also I think these are my best 6 pieces of work, but then 3 of them are from the same client. So do I actually put all 3 of those on the top row, or do I mix them up a little bit? Like, you know, again, there is literally no right answer to it. You kind of just have to feel it out a little bit, I think. And then obviously there's the reverse side of it is, and this isn't something I've done too much of, like just getting in touch with people you want to work with.
I don't think I've ever done it. I mean, I've said to people who've been in touch with me previously about doing work. You know, they've contacted me first and said, would you like the creators put? And then after a period of time, I might have gone back to them and said, look, is any work available? I'm about type of thing. But yeah, maybe I should be a bit more direct. Maybe I should be just, look, you know, if you've got anything you need doing, not that, you know, you have to pick me, but just consider me in your options. I mean, if you don't ask, I guess in life, if you don't ask, you don't get. That's the reality. And
sometimes
go on, mate.
Sometimes you do. Like I think it comes down to that sort of what we were mentioning before about for your goals this year. Just be consistently putting work out, and opportunities do come your way. There is an element of that. Like, I don't know about you, but when I was looking at, because I've obviously got me website as well, Cali Designs, and then we've got UA, and then we've got YouTube, and I was like, what do I want to do for each one of them? And I was just like, I just need to put work out consistently on all 3 of those platforms. If I do that to the standard that I know I can produce, then I know what two things are going to happen. 1, I'm going to get opportunities, and 2, I'm going to make revenue from it. So you've got that side of it, but you know, reaching out to someone is obviously a great tool to use if that's, you know, one of your main goals for the year. I just think creating new work, creating new content, and just being in those circles and staying relevant, and that consistency. If you've got a high level, if you've got a high level of skill and you've got a good portfolio and you've got consistency as well, there's nothing that can stop you getting those opportunities for me. And that, you know, more of that this year on all counts.
Yeah, agreed.
I think coming back to something you said about one of your goals for last year, I think one of the most frustrating things about like getting work from clients is so little of it is actually in your control. That final step of them giving you work is not something it's not a decision you play a part in whatsoever. But I think, like, again, like trying to figure out every one of your goals in the sense of how can you control it, what can you do to get you closer is a hugely important thing. And I would say, like, a piece of advice that's been given to me on every creative front that I've ever done, and it's always been consistent, is like, if you want to get work from people, create the kind of work that you want to get from them. So, like, you know, if you want to do more client work on the things that you think you'd want to produce for a client. You know, put that out in the world, and then the right people will hopefully see it and eventually think, oh, you know what, it'd be really cool if they produce that kind of thing for my brand.
Yeah.
Just being visible, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree with that. And I do have client, like, there is one, I work with a football agency, and I've done for the last 2 years. I I showed you, there was remember I did that Matty Cash piece. I showed you the guys a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And stuff. But it's just for me, and it's great. And the relationship we have is really good.
But so where is that piece of work?
But that's the thing. They do it as a presentation. So as far as I'm aware, off the top of my head, I think they use it in their presentation to kind of entice him to join the agency.
Right. Okay.
But I don't think it's shown online or in a way that where we could visually see it. I just think it's part of the presentation pack that they offer to their footballers as such. Because I did ask previously, and I know the guy. He's a good friend, and he said, yeah, there's nowhere we can kind of show you online where I can. So if I say I did some work for them, I can put it on my portfolio, but I can't really link it, like, oh, here it is on the BBC website, or here it is on Sky Sports, or whatever.
I don't think that matters. Like, I think, because I don't think, like, a lot of it in our line of work is like your word is kind of your bond. Yeah. So, like, if that was really a concern, anybody could create any piece of work and say, I did this for this brand. But like, people don't, because people know that eventually you'll get called out for bullshit. So I think, if you did produce, like, you did produce that piece of work for this agency, for this player, like, I'd just be like saying to them, like, hey, do you mind if I put this online and explain what it was for? Like, so like last year I worked with a management agency who look after Kai Havertz and Serge Gnabry. And I produced 3 pieces of work for them. One was like a birthday gift. They posted it on their social media, but like then they gave a print to the player as like a birthday gift for each one. And I produced a piece for them that they gave to Havertz as a gift to celebrate him winning the Champions League and scoring the winning goal. And there's no photos or anything of like those things being given to the players. Like, I still just put it on my Instagram and said these were commissioned as personal gifts for the players. And like, you couldn't find proof of that online, but you could, if somebody eventually wanted to, they could get in touch with the agency and say like, hey, is this true? Because and this comes back to something that I was thinking to say while you were telling like that anecdote, like, and it's really frustrating, and I feel filthy saying it at the time and asking the question. One of the most important things for me about producing client work is like my ability to then use it as self-promotion. Like, the work itself is less valuable if you can't then post it on your own social media account.
And if you think about, sorry, Carl.
I was gonna say I totally agree, and it's not like there's ever been a case where I can't post it on my social media accounts. It's just that I think in my head, I think that if somebody's looking to employ someone and then they see, oh, he's worked with BBC, he's worked with this, and then there's the proof in front of you, it shows that he can deal with deadlines, he can deal with big companies and stuff. And I think in my head, because there's no visual representation of the work that I've done in terms of, obviously as a visual representation because I created it, but in terms of somewhere for people to view it, I don't know, maybe I just felt like it's a bit not less, but not that people wouldn't believe you, but there's it's just not as real, if that makes sense what I'm trying to say. But you're right. I mean, I still do put it up, but if people can give me screenshots of where it has been put on, like, for example, I did stuff for Match Today magazine. You're right there, bro. I did stuff for Match of the Day magazine, and Lee, who works with him, he would just send me, some photos of it on the front cover, inside, and whatever, and that just makes it so much easier for you to pop it on your portfolio when you've got to kind of cut everything up yourself and then kind of recreate that kind of thing. I think that's where, again, as I was saying earlier, I'm not majorly organized, so
mate, just send it to me. Like, a lot of the times I don't even use the mock-ups that clients send me anyway. I make my
own.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Maybe that's what I should probably do. And I will, like I said, again, this year, it's all about goals, it's about learning and achieving.
I feel like last year, in the entire time that I've known you, I felt like it seemed like you were the least prolific.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a period of time, like, and maybe it's been on and off, like when you were posting like the fake training illustrations that you were doing, which were really cool. And I feel like, last year was maybe the least new work I felt like I'd seen from you.
Yeah, it totally was, but that would be just down to family life, kids getting bigger,
of course. Yeah,
kids going to school, and just that kind of real stuff getting in the way. Not in the way, but taking priority over
clip
artwork
that, send it to his missus.
If you look at the actual stuff that you did release though, like it's not a coincidence that you've been getting more offers from crypto companies, because the biggest blast of content that I seen you do was creating NFTs. And as soon as you created that many NFTs, you got 2 or 3 different projects thrown at you, which I think 2 of them you're currently working on now. You sold a load of NFTs this year. Do you know what I mean? So it's just purely what you work on and what you put out. It's that consistency again.
I think both of you are absolutely spot on, and that's something I need to work on for the new year. I guess it's also the balancing act of running an online store and dealing with like even just the time consuming it is to do VAT or to do tax return and customer issues, and you kind of don't allow for those types of things when you're doing, well, you don't think about allowing time to do those things when you start up, because you just think you're just going to be constantly illustrating, even about going to the post office and putting stuff in envelopes, and there's a time and a day to do it. You have to do all that kind of stuff, and you kind of I don't know whether sometimes like I don't know about YouTube, but I find that if I'm putting stuff in envelopes the day, if I start whatever, I'm knackered by the time I finish. I'm like don't get me wrong, I'd love to be able to sit down and do, but I just can't. I just want to be away from the computer for a bit. I want to just step out of it, and I find that because I was doing that, and I do that on once a week at least, or prior to that probably twice a week. So but you're right. I guess the content is about putting regularly, like you said, keep posting, and you keep putting those, you keep putting the bait in the water. Eventually the big fishes will bite. So
I think like that.
Go on, Annie.
That is actually like, so if I think about it, there are lots, because like as Karl and I both said, we're not exactly as organized as Callie is. Like I don't have a list of my goals, but I think like the one I think of, which is like, it's somewhat abstract because it would take loads of different parameters, like personally for me to meet, but there's a part of me that would like, I would happily run my shop with somebody, paying somebody part-time to do it for me, and not make any money from it.
So many DMs are coming your way to do that now.
But like right now that's not happening, because still financially, like my shop makes up a substantial part of my income, and I need that to to support myself and continue living and putting food on the table. But like I look at my shop a little bit now, and I mentioned this in our Christmas catch-up episode, where my priorities pivoted from creating work to put in my shop versus client work. And I look at all of it as feeding into one another. Same with Untitled Artwork. Like, for me, that it's all about growing the whole pie.
Yeah.
And I don't mind creating work that goes in my shop, and just I put online as a personal piece of work, because I know that people see it who give me work, and that's an important part of it. So that's why I say like, there's a certain part of me that would like be happy continuing to run my shop, handing over the actual operations to someone else, and running at net zero, because it's still part of perpetuating my brand and growing my brand and growing everything that we do together. So like that would, I think, to a certain extent, like if I could get to a point where I'm earning enough just from client work, my filmmaking work, to the point where like, I didn't have to worry about making anything from the shop, then I think I would happily hand it over to someone, especially in a way that like, if we were, any of us or all of us collectively were at a point where we could pay somebody, a livable, like small salary to work part-time and run a shop for us, they could probably double the sales anyway. But it's it's how do you get to that point?
I mean, I'd quite happily do exactly the same, but I think it would be a cost that if I'm not making any money from it, I'm not sure I'd be motivated enough to create more artwork work for it to sell, if that makes sense, because I would want to concentrate on the revenue stream of client work. If for example, if I handed the shop to someone now to work it, that would be absolutely fine, but the likelihood is any new work would be for the shop itself would be few and far between if I don't feel I'm getting enough return financially from it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I think like just to get into the very literal sense of that. So I'm just going to quickly go on my shop while we're talking about this, because I think it will really simply illustrate like exactly what we're talking about. So if I go on my shop, so like the Gerard piece that I did last year, I know from putting together my like 2021 look back at 2021 summary that I posted on social media, that I created that in March. And so that's almost at the middle point of when I started my shop versus the end of the year. And like before that, just on my shop, there's probably 30 pieces of work that I created in the span from September to March of 2021. But then if I go March to the end of the year, it's like 9.
Yeah.
So like that's literally like exactly what happened to me. Is like I went from making several new pieces of work a month to making like less than 1.
Yeah. I think it's that structure, because when you've got multiple things going on, client work, your shop, now Untitled Artwork as well, that's one of the things I wanted to sort of glaze over with mine. Is I've wrote down specific things to do again that I want to achieve with those things, like, and it's structured. So it's like I want to release at least 1 new print a month, and if I do that, I'll be happy. If I can release 1 new NFT a month, I think that's achievable. If we be consistent with video releases and recording these podcasts and getting guests on and planning, and then we be consistent with the project work that we're currently working on as well, just having that loose structure, just because most of my worries last year was, what should I be posting and when? What should I be doing and when? Like I'd be like, I've got to do a video for Untitled Artwork, I've got to do this print, I've got to do this card, I've got to do this project. And I was like, which one do I pick, and which one do I promote, which one do I share stuff about? And it comes down to what Karl was saying, like, you've got to allocate time, or at least have a goal to say, I'm doing 1 of each of those a month. And I think that's sort of how I'm going to try and attack it. And I know the quality is going to be there. It's just, if I can stick to that plan, then I think it'll work out how we want it.
Yeah, definitely,
for sure. I think like my goal with reference to Untitled Artwork, I think one of my specific goals is I want us to be posting a video a week minimum.
100%
for the entire year. I think that's a really important thing. I think when you grow in a channel like this, I think consistency is the ultimate thing, isn't it? And it's what drives you up in like any sort of algorithm. And I think that's certainly the biggest thing. Like I know that's one of the main things for Instagram as well, is, you know, you're better off posting 1 thing a day rather than 1 week a month where you post 8 things. I think that's definitely something that I want to try and improve. And I think like it's really difficult to quantify exactly what I want to get out of Untitled Artwork in the next 12 months, because it's still such a new thing. But I think, like, you know, not a lot of people watching this will know, but there are associated costs with a platform like this. And, you know, I'm not saying that should put anybody off starting one, because one of the reasons there's costs for us guys is that we have other work that we're doing all the time, you know, other projects independently and together. But there are associated costs with this. We got a website to pay for, we got a YouTube channel that we need to pay somebody to do the work for, etc., etc. And for me, like, if we can get through the next 12 months and it not have cost us a penny, so if literally it's at 0, I'll be happy, because I know, like, personally, I know how much I get from producing stuff with you guys and just, building our relationship and friendship together, that means a lot to me. So that's totally worth it. And then the other side of it is continuing to ride the coattails of Karl's massive social media following. So that's worth it as well.
Yeah, but I think you're right though. What do we want from Untitled Artwork? For me, again, it's to put the value out for people to try and be successful in the creative industry. You don't have to just be an illustrator, a graphic designer, filmmaker, a songwriter. We want to give everyone that sort of that central place that you can go to.
Yeah.
Speak to people who've got the experience, that have become successful in that creative world, and then and share that with people. And if we can somehow ping revenue streams across that with 1 art artwork, 2 personal projects, 3 group projects that we've got going at the moment, 4 that unbelievable Van Dijk print that's behind Karl. I keep plugging this, but it is about
link in the description.
Yeah, the link's in the description. But we
only on sale to the end of Jan.
We want to do this. We want to do this as a full-time thing, don't we? Like, we want this and our other projects to be what we do for a living. That's my goal. And I'm always thinking of stuff revenue stream wise, but the main thing is to create that community where people can learn from people who've done it.
Yeah,
like we've got, sorry, just one last point, Karl, that we've got Dave Will's episode coming out soon, which I got so much value from that episode, just listening to how he finds illustrators, how he works with illustrators, what people need to be looking at, showing themselves like online to work with massive brands. That sort of content, if we can continue to put that out, I think we'll be able to do okay off it as well. And honestly, that's what I want from it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I was just going to say, what I was going to say is I want also people to realize that when they watch this, we're normal people. We're like you. We're like, people that watch this, we all come from different backgrounds. I've got kids, you've both got full-time jobs. And it's just, there's an element that, you don't have to be a special person, or there's some sort of, you're in some sort of elite group to achieve goals and dreams as an illustrator or any sort of creative. And I hope that we come across that, we have a laugh, we have a general chat, we take the piss, all these types of things. And I think that's really important when you're trying to show people, or trying to help people in a direction that they want to go, is that, there is nothing, there's no special group or something special that you've got to have achieved. I've got no qualifications in illustration at all, and I'm pretty sure neither of you two really have. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's what I kind of want to get across to people, that I'm the elderly gentleman of the group. I just want to prove that if you've got kids and you're older and you can still achieve these things, it's not, that for me is really important, because I don't think that often gets said enough. And I think that we can prove that from each of our backgrounds, our diversity and all these types of things, that, we can try and achieve these things. And in terms of a roadmap for Untitled Artwork, I just want to be one of these ones where we're following a road, and then when we get to a turning, whether it's left, right or center, as a group we decide where we want to go. There's no end. We're trying to get to, wherever it may be, the end goal. If it means, all right, we 6 months time we've gone here, and let's go left, we'll go down here, we'll go right, whatever it is, and we just keep evolving as a trio, and just see where it goes. And I think, if you can do that, I think that's just, that'll be a goal in itself. Just let it flow. Wherever we go.
Yeah, I think one of the main things as well, which we can go into detail on another episode, but being able to do stuff for other artists in terms of finding work and getting promoted, because we know how difficult it is to, this whole episode's been about how we're all sort of struggling, trying to be successful, even though you would look at the sales we've had and say they've been consistent, and the brand and where we are is marginally successful, I'd say. But you're doing it full time, Carl. We're doing this. We are earning money from what we're doing, which is success in my eyes. But we're struggling every day to continue to do it. So if we can bring those people forward to have those conversations with as well, maybe we need to open up a channel of communication, more like a Discord or something like that.
Well, I think that might nicely move us on to some of the plans that we already do have for 2022 for Untitled Artwork. I don't think there's any need for us to not openly discuss them. So I think, one of the things 100%. That we're aiming to do probably by around end of Feb, some point in March, is launch a Patreon service for this. I think there is absolutely no possibility in the level-headed world that we're going to make a living or turn this into a viable way to support ourselves in the next 12, 24, probably 36 months. But what the support of people buying things like our prints do is it means that we can produce more of this content, because as I've outlined already, there are associated costs, and we're more than happy to invest it because we like producing the content. But the more people support us, the more content we can produce, and hopefully the more valuable it can be. So Absolutely. Some point in the next couple of months, we're going to launch a Patreon channel that'll just include things like longer episodes, but it'll also give you a little bit of an insight into our working processes. And alongside that will most likely be something like a Discord channel where other artists, are more than welcome to upload their own work, ask for feedback. We'll share work in progress shots of ours, so you'll be able to see things like that first and get exclusive insight into what we're working on. But we also want to make sure that it goes both ways, like Callie was saying, where people can ask us questions, and hopefully we can build a little bit of an Untitled Artwork community where people can directly talk to us, other artists, and it can become that kind of open conversation where we're all supporting each other. Because I think it's always important to remember that the community working together and supporting each other can push us all up higher faster, rather than if we're all just trying to eat each other and seeing each other as competition, because it isn't that at all.
And one of the previews to that is we've discussed like an actual formal series of videos that we're going to produce, which we talk about being able to launch your first store and make consistent sales. That's one thing that all three of us have practiced and done over 2 to 5 years. That there's so many nuances in the Twitter world, in the marketing world, in the consistency world, that we can create a series of videos that people can just watch from start to finish and have the tools to be able to go, I can apply those tools now and create my own shop from scratch with any product, whether it's creative or not, and be able to be earning a substantial amount of money compared to what you might not be earning now each year, depending on the time you put into it. So that sort of library of content we're hoping can go towards making people successful, because that's what everyone wants, isn't it? Everyone, in my opinion, everyone wants to just do their own shit and be successful at it to the point where they don't have to go and sit in an office 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly.
5 days a week. Do you know what I mean? And working at weekends and working Christmas Day. And if we can help one person get to that point, it'd be worth it for me, even if it's even if we just break even on the costs.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. But let's talk more about that print.
That's what it is.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a collaboration print. It's available in A2 and A3, and you can get it at untitled-artwork.com.
Hope you enjoy the video.